Forgot to
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
I do not want kids.
Being a mom is amazing. It's the best thing.
I'm 33 and I have no kids. Being a mom is literally the best thing ever.
Do not have kids.
I would argue it's one of the most important decisions.
Do you want to have kids? No. And I have no kids.
Decisions for you to decide.
And I have no kids.
When are you going to have kids?
There's no benefit to asking that question. Saying that to someone who is really struggling, it can end up triggering something so deep.
Do I know how my life is going to change? And am I ready to embrace that change?
The older that you get as a woman, the more difficult it is to conceive.
Of having a child financially is actually one of the biggest factors in why people are scared about children. This is something that I hear a lot when we're back in London.
Yeah, for sure.
Is when are you going to have kids?
Yep, it's a big question, especially after you hit 30s. It's something, especially the aunties out there, they just really like knowing for some reason. They want to know what's happening. And I think a lot of people struggle with it. My friends really do, especially my friends who are not even in a relationship at the age of 35 or, in their late 30s, and they haven't got into a relationship. And then they're really scared about the idea of when am I going to have children? And then the pressure of people asking on top of that. I think more so for women than men, it's just really, it can be really difficult for so many people to hear that regularly and not know when it's going to happen for them.
Yeah, talk to me about that pressure, because I think you're right. Women get it more than men.
Definitely.
And they hear it a lot more often from a lot more people. So talk to me a bit about that pressure, because I may not even understand it fully, because that's not really something that men get hit with that often.
Yeah, I think, biologically, look, it is true. The older that you get as a woman, the more difficult it is to conceive. And so I think biologically women have this internal clock that is ticking. And whether you're unsure about having children or whether you really want them, you feel it internally that your body is aging and what that means, because you've been told that from such a young age, that as a woman, when you have to have children, the ideal age to have children is in your 20s. As soon as you hit your 30s, it's going to get harder. And so I think you feel it in your body and you notice changes that are happening, which lead you to believe that it's kind of getting to the end of the time period where it's going to be easy for you to conceive. And then I think for a lot of women who aren't even in relationships yet, it's like, God, I have to find my partner and I have to get pregnant within the next 2 years or whatever it is. Yeah, I think it's a mixture of media and a mixture of people around you and the reality of the situation being, unfortunately, that we do have a body clock.
Yeah, and I did some research before the episode, and it said that women born in 2007 are projected to have their first child by age 35 versus 31 for their mothers.
Yes, so true.
And girls born in 2025 may not reach that milestone until age 36. And so it's going up gradually. And so anyone who's feeling alone, or anyone who is thinking, oh gosh, like maybe it's just me, the truth is it's not just you, it is the trend. And I think often we don't look at statistics as a way of understanding we're not alone, because the trends show what everyone around you is doing, even if you feel everyone around you is having kids, right? I think a lot of people look around and go, well, everyone on Instagram has kids and all my friends have kids and everyone does. It's just me. I'm the one who's been left behind. Either I don't have kids or I haven't found my person yet. And the reality is the stats show, no, you're not alone at all. Pretty much everyone around you is getting older, is having kids older, and that's much more normal. And I think when you understand that, it kind of frees you up from some of that pressure. But what's the different kind of pressure that people get from like family, society, friends? Like have you noticed any patterns or differences in what you hear? And I think there's two things that I find really interesting. The first is no one ever asks the question, do you want kids?
Yes.
Or you will, maybe from a friend or someone you're very close to. But generally people will skip that question. It's really strange because when you ask the question, when are you having kids? It's an assumption that people want kids, that people can conceive and have kids.
Yeah, that's the hardest.
Which today we'll talk about that. That's a whole nother area. It's quite an insensitive and unthoughtful question. It comes with good intent. People are excited, people are whatever. But if you look at it in reality, it doesn't make sense as a question. It's like saying to someone like, when are you going to start a business? And the person's like, I'm happy in my job. Like, I don't want to start a business. Or like, when are you going to leave your job and find a better job? And it's like, I don't know if I need to leave my job. Like, why are you assuming that? But we assume everyone wants kids, can have kids, and is excited about that.
I think the biggest part of it is the insensitivity about it. And I know people don't mean it in that way, but I think nowadays we're all aware that more people than not are having miscarriages or not being able to conceive. I think it's like 1 in 5 women have miscarriages. And so we all have girlfriends, at least like 5 women in our life that one of them will probably have had a miscarriage. And I think now we are aware of that. When people DM me or comment on stuff, or even the craziest thing is I will sometimes have videos where a little bit of my belly's popping out a bit, or like maybe I've just eaten and I'm a bit bloated, and people are like, oh my gosh, are you pregnant? And I'm like, first of all, okay, I actually don't mind if people think I'm pregnant based on how I look, but I always think if someone's saying that to someone who is really struggling to conceive, to have a baby, not sure what they're doing, it can end up triggering something so deeply. So it's kind of like, what is the benefit of me asking when you're having children, and what's the benefit of me writing it in a public forum questioning whether that person is pregnant or not? Because if they are pregnant and they haven't told you, they probably don't want to tell you. And that's the reality of it. People go through different phases in their life where they really want children, and then they're not sure, and then they're trying to figure themselves out and feel like it's not the right time. And there's so many parts of life where you can feel a different way about something. But I always struggle with the idea of, oh, you know, are we doing it in the wrong way, or are we doing it in the right way? Like, yes, I think, you know, health aspect of it, it is better to have children when you're younger, according to your health. But then when I think about it with mindset, if I had children when I was in my 20s, I'm not sure I would have been a version of myself that has space to have a child, look after it in the right way, create the life that I would have wanted to for that child. But I would have done that because of pressure of people telling me that the 20s is when you should do it. And then I speak to women who are in their late 30s having children. They say, I'm so glad. I'm so grateful that I had children at a later age. I now can spend so much time with them. I figured my life out. I've spent time with my partner. I feel like I'm in a stable place financially. All of these things are in place for me to really bring up this child how I wanted to. And so I think there's so many, obviously there is no right answer. But I do think it's difficult going through. I'm sure anyone listening, I don't know whether you've been through this, but in my 20s, I thought growing up, I would have both my children, or the 2 children that I thought I wanted, in my 20s. No, like I was going to be a young mom in my 20s that was pregnant, looking cute, you know, just getting like fit after my pregnancy. You know, I had a vision of what that looked like. And then my life changed dramatically. Our life changed dramatically. And I felt like I went through a whole journey of really having to figure out so much more about myself, to feel even comfortable about inviting another soul into my life that I then would be responsible for. And I would want to give them the best of myself. And so I think it's really hard for women, honestly.
Yeah,
I think it really is.
Yeah, you brought up 2 really good things. I think one part is the idea that when you ask the question, when are you having kids? If that person's just had a miscarriage, it's really, really tough to face that question. And they try and smile and hold a positive demeanor in that environment, and then they feel pain afterwards. Or let's say they're going through IVF treatment, which so many of our friends are as well, and so many people we know, and it's not going that well right now. Again, it's become an emotional reaction for that person. And then there's the person who's like, well, I don't want to have kids at all. Now it may start a debate that they don't really want to have because they don't need to convince you or anyone else. And so those first 2, though, I've seen that be so hard. I've had so many friends in the last 24 to 36 months who've gone through 1, 2, 3, 5 rounds of IVF, had multiple miscarriages. And whenever that question or conversation comes up at family dinner or anywhere, it's so emotionally difficult for that individual. And just to be really clear, me and Radhia have not gone through either of those things, and just to be, totally transparent and honest, we haven't. But for anyone who is going through that, I've had so many of my friends come up to me and just say like, dude, I'm struggling. This is men too, like coming up to me and just being like, my wife's just been through this. I'm just trying to be there for her. But then all her friends keep saying, like, when are you having kids and what's going on? And then she's coming to me, and it's a real thing. And so I'm really glad that you raised that point, because I think it's often forgotten or missed. And the other thing I was going to say is, I think one of the biggest challenges with humans is that we try to time things perfectly. Now, the biological clock is real. totally understand. Let's start with that foundation. But the idea of when are you having kids is the wrong question. I think the right questions are actually, do I know how my life will change when I have a child? And am I ready to embrace that change?
Right.
Now, the truth is, you won't know fully how your life is going to change. So I know parents will say, Jay, you never know. Your life will change in the most incredible ways and crazy ways. I agree with that too. I don't know. I don't have kids. But what I can observe is, am I prepared for the basics of that change? Do I know? It's like changing anything in life. Am I aware of how my sleep patterns may change, how my social life may change, how my relationship with my partner may change? I was looking into the statistics about this because I was talking to a client of mine, and they were telling me that after they had their firstborn, him and his wife went through the toughest part of their marriage.
Oh, wow.
And when I looked into the statistics, it showed that most men feel after their partner gives birth that they feel unloved, they feel like a second priority, they feel unthought about.
Yeah.
And that's also why the trends show that more men are likely to cheat at that time,
No way.
when their wife are pregnant or when their wife gives birth, because, again, I'm not condoning this, I'm just talking about the statistics,
Right.
because that's when they feel neglected. So the truth is, if you're prepared for that, you'll be less surprised and caught off guard,
Right.
right? When I think about us having kids, I'm like, got it. Radhi, I'm going to go lower on the list.
Yeah.
And that's a reality, not just for me, but for every man in my position who has that situation. And if I'm mentally prepared for it, I'm actually better ready to deal with it, rather than I'm like looking at you going, well, what's going on? Like, why am I not your priority anymore? You don't love me anymore. When in reality, of course, your energy is going to go towards this helpless little baby who actually needs it. And all I'm saying is, like, treat me like the baby. I'm not the baby anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot to be said for not asking the question of when's the right time, because I don't think you'll ever know when it's the right time. But it's, do I know how my life is going to change? And am I ready to embrace that change? So my life is going to change, but I'm not going to be your top priority. Am I ready for that? My life's going to change by, I will have sleepless nights. Am I ready for that? My life's going to change with, I may not be able to have the freedom on the weekends that I have right now. Am I ready for that? And those are better questions to prepare me, because the question of when should we have kids doesn't really prepare me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think that the process is never going to be the same and never going to be understood as fully by a man as it is obviously for a woman, because a woman has to literally carry that child inside of her for those 9 months. And so I think there's always going to be slight disconnects between how men perceive the situation and how women do. But I remember I was thinking about how, I remember at the beginning when we first met, you really didn't want to have children, or like you weren't sure whether you did. And it was so...
That was right at the beginning.
That was right at the beginning, yeah.
I just come out of the monastery, and at that time.
Exactly, and your mindset was like that. And I read this quote, actually, that I thought, for anybody thinking of not having children, I thought it was really well put. It said, motherhood is not the only way to mother. You can mother a movement, a garden, a dream, or a community. And I remember when we first met way back when, you had said you wanted to help so many more people, and you weren't sure whether you wanted to put all your emphasis onto one person or into one child. And so many people recently that I have met, or actually not so many, quite a few people that I've met recently have said that they don't want to have children because they feel